I hope. Hey guys, welcome.
Come say hello. It's a place to talk about history, talk about science with Enzo, dig into the great unknown. Just come.
I'll hide that. Hey everybody, sorry, internet glitches. Can everybody who's watching just give me a thumbs up and let me know that you can hear and see us okay? Enzo, I can see great. I can see me. Can you see me, Enzo?
I can.
Hey, Jonathan. Yeah, so everybody in the chat, just keep an eye on things. If I start to glitch or anything, let me know. Yeah, internet is fun lately, isn't it? I'm waiting for our friend Taylor to come along. She'll be here shortly, I'm sure. I did invite some other guests today, Carla and a friend of mine, CL, but unfortunately, they couldn't make it. Hey, Laura, are you busy? You're welcome to pop in. I can send you a link, but you might be busy. But if you're not, let me know and I'll send you a link. Is Heather here? Where's Heather? Where's Heather? Where's Heather? Where did I see my Heather? Oh, there she is. I am in the background. I'm being proactive today.
Productive.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's all right. You can do that. And feel free. Enzo doesn't. Oh, cool. Okay, I'll send you a little link. Give me a second. Copy. And Laura, where are you? La la la. I'm so professional. Laura. I'll type the name in. Doesn't this silly Facebook thingy know I want to speak to you immediately?
And have voice controls. You know, we're in the future now. We're supposed to have that Star Trek computer voice thing down.
That's right. That's right. Oh, where am I? Oh, there's Taylor. She's got no video at the minute, but that's okay, and she's got her sound turned off. But she is here.
I'm here. With the camera technical difficulties. Hi, everyone.
Oh, that's all right. But I can hear you, so it's all good.
Hey, there you are.
Productive. Okay.
Hi.
Can you see Taylor, Enzo?
Yes, I can.
Why can't I? It must be my stupid internet. Can you still see me okay?
Yeah, I can see you.
All right, I can't see you yet, but I'm sure it'll pop in eventually.
All the zeros and ones have to turn upside down.
Going to the other side of the world.
Yeah, does anyone else have trouble with the internet lately? I swear it's the aliens. It's just driving me nuts.
Those damn egg ship aliens.
Oh, geez. Laura's going to join us. I don't know what Laura knows about some of the stuff I want to talk about today, but Taylor and I were chatting about it yesterday, and I started going down the rabbit hole last night because people were asking me. The subject matter came about because President Trump has signed the executive order to release the files on JFK. There's Laura. Hi, Laura. JFK, Martin Luther King, and Robert Kennedy. So I thought, hey, hi, Carla. I hope your little fella's feeling better. She's got a little fella. That's why she couldn't make it. And he's wanting soup and cuddles, I think. Yeah. But anyway, someone asked me a question because I said on my Facebook somewhere, I wondered, which is, I wonder what you guys think too. Even though he signed the executive order and even though the files will be released, I know that he's seen them. He said he has seen the JFK file, but he said the reason that he did not release it last time when he was in office as he wanted to was because some of the players in it were still alive, which made it a bit, tender. So I'm guessing all the players are dead now. But yeah, I kind of thought... Yeah, I kind of thought, I wonder what you guys think, even though he's releasing them, because I don't trust any of these agencies, especially the FBI and CIA. I hope they're not listening.
Sure they are.
I'm sure they are. Diddly-dee, that lady in Australia. But the reason I find it interesting is because they do what they do and because generally they cover things up anyway, what's to say the files have all been either redacted or mysteriously evidence has disappeared, or maybe at the time they were ordered by my not too favourite president LBJ to get rid of everything. You will put nothing in the files, nothing, just all of what, their narrative. So it'd be interesting. It'll probably come out, oh yes, it was just, what it was, but I don't know. Totally suspicious to me. What's Enzo showing us? There we go.
Just to put this right up front, so people's expectations are a little tempered. This is the second part of the actual, this is the declassification of records concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Signed executive order yesterday by Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And this specific part, Section 2, Declassification Disclosure, Part A, within 15 days of the date of this order, which was yesterday, the Director of National Intelligence and the Attorney General shall, in coordination with the Assistant to the President for the National Security Affairs and the Counsel to the President, present a plan to the President for the full and complete release of records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. So they have 2 weeks from today to present their plan to President Trump to release it. So I've seen people today on the internet going, where is it? Where do I find it? Where do I download all this stuff? Gotta wait. Because to be fair, and basically the second part, Part B at the bottom here, within 45 days of the date of this order, which was yesterday, all those same people will get together and release the stuff for President Trump to see for Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and present whatever their plan is to release all of that information. And then he'll say yay or nay to that, and they'll move forward from there. So in case anybody is wondering, where is it? We've still got a couple of weeks at the earliest for the JFK, and then another month after that for the rest of the folks. And
where are we? Oh, sorry, go.
There will be some blacked out stuff because, for example, I don't know how comprehensive and wide reaching all of this stuff is going to be. If it's everything, just as an example, if Dallas PD interviewed people that were in Daley Plaza that day, it's going to have all of their pertinent information on it. It's going to have their full name. It's going to have their social security number. It's going to have their address from back then and phone number, all that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff you can't really release out to the public, personal information. So that kind of stuff will be blocked out. Now their statement may be included, but they still have to go through and make sure that kind of stuff cleaned up before releasing it out to everybody.
Oh, well, I suppose that's fair enough because, if it's got addresses and things like that, you don't want to share that out with everybody. That's for sure. I'm just getting some pictures up to show people so they know what rabbit hole I went down. But I just wondered what you guys thought, whether or not you thought that they. Hi, Kevin Rodriguez. I just wondered what you guys thought about whether you're not, even though what Enzo's just shown us, I still wonder back in the day when it was all sort of filed away, I wonder how much stuff was lost, how much stuff might have been tampered with so that should the file ever come out, certain players in it are still protected. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I trust nothing, but I hope, because it'd be very interesting if it all comes out and it says, oh, yeah, LBJ made a phone call and he was best friends with this mafia boss and then they did that. I can't imagine for 1 second that if that were true, that it would be documented. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Well, if there wasn't that level of stuff in there, why not have released it a long time ago? There's certainly something sensitive enough on it that they've been sitting on it for all of these years and not releasing it. So I feel there's going to be some juicy stuff in there. And of course, there's a million scenarios of what it could possibly be, from it was a single shooter who was just a disgruntled person and got lucky, or mob bosses and aliens and time travelers and all kinds of stuff that can get factored in there. And this will be the largest, look at any of what the true facts are that anyone's seen since it occurred. So we'll see.
But yeah. So I had heard of I watch, as you know, a lot of you who are regular know that I watch a lot of old television. So I watch things like What's My Line, all of the old talk shows, Johnny Carson, all of everything. I love watching old TV, old interviews, etc. And one of my favourite shows is What's My Line, where a guest would come on. There'd be a panel of 4 people, celebrity type people, masked. Someone would come on and they'd be masked and they had to guess, the celebrity, what their line was, what did they do, what was their job, who were they, etc. And it was a fun show. And they had, Lucille Ball. I'm trying to think if Errol Flynn was ever on. I think he was. Colonel Sanders was on, all these things. And one of the ladies that was always on the panel was, I'll show you a picture of her, hang on, was a lady called Dorothy Kilgallen. And where are you, Dot? There she is. I'll show you these people. And where am I? You had to bloody share a screen by now quickly, wouldn't you? Why can't I? There we are. Present. Share screen. Why isn't it letting me do?
Sounds like me.
Oh, there we go. All right. So that's Dorothy, right? So she used to always be on the show, but Dorothy was awesome. That's why I liked her. She was actually a journalist. That's why I thought Taylor would be interested. And I think Taylor knows this story, don't you, Taylor, about Dorothy? Taylor?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's fascinating.
So, yeah. So she was a reporter, but a proper, like a crime reporter. Like she'd go and investigate crimes and stuff. She was a very smart lady. So she lived in New York. She was friends with a lot of very famous people. She was friends with JFK, but she was particularly friends with one of JFK's mistresses, right? And I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, I'll try and make a long story pretty short, which is difficult. So Dorothy's dad was also pretty well known, but as far as Dorothy's concerned, she would work with her husband. She had a podcast, you could call it, back in the day. Now, what did they call it? Breakfast with Dorothy and Dick. So it was a podcast because it was radio, I guess, but they would, at their home, they would sit there and talk about the political subjects of the day and the gossip and all that sort of stuff. She wrote a column called The Hollywood Scene, and then she got sued by somebody. I can't remember who, but she got sued by somebody, so she stopped writing that and she went back and started writing another column in New York, which, now what did she call that? And I'm getting to it. The reason I'm going through all this is because it's important. So where are you? And she wrote books too. She did all sorts of things. But where am I? Anyway, she wrote, Voice of Broadway. There you go. I found it. So in that one, she actually ended up getting into reporting. Although she was reporting on Broadway and the theatre culture there, she started to branch off and go back into doing the crime reporting as well. She was actually investigating and writing a book on a lot of things, but at the time of her death, now remembering she was friends, she knew JFK, they were good friends, and people said after his death, why did she not write a book about him? And she said, because he was my friend. And I'm not writing a book about him. But she was friends also with, did I get a picture of her to show you? Let me see. I'm just looking for she was friends with JFK's mistress, and the mistress of JFK, that's how she met him, and they were really good friends, but the mistress died too, but I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, so where's a little bit? I've written heaps of notes, so I'm trying to make this make sense. I'm not as good as Taylor at retelling things times. Let's
Well, while you're looking that up, I do have a question for Taylor.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate Dorothy's hat?
Oh, let's get a closer look here. Let me pull this up a little closer. I do like it. It looks like it's a nice, is that maybe straw? It's a nice, maybe pillbox style hat there with a pretty flower. I wonder where she got it. Maybe
I don't
Fifth
know.
Avenue. Together. So let's see. I'd give it a nice 8.
Nice.
All right, what I'm going to do so I don't skip all over things, I'm just going to read what I wrote. Is that all right? Because otherwise I'm going to skip. Sure. So anyway, like I said on What's My Line, she was really on that still to the night before her death. She had actually come home from filming What's My Line the night she died. So she was on the show until to her death. And she was very close friends with JFK, as I've said, and she was responsible, which I only realised last night, she was responsible for getting Sam Shepard released from prison. Does anyone know who Sam Shepard is off the top of your head? It was the one-armed man. It was the doctor accused of beating his wife to death. So he's been in prison for a long time, and she'd been investigating it. But she was responsible for getting him released from prison because she dug deeply into it. She contacted people, and it was one of those, another sort of political type incarceration. But he got out, so there you go, because she always believed he was innocent as well. Then she wrote a story on the CIA and the mafia's connections, right? So she wrote that they were working together. So she wrote the story in a column. They were working together to organise the assassination of Fidel Castro. J. Edgar Hoover came in and thought, what the hell's this woman doing? So he ordered the FBI to keep a file on her. They phone tapped her. They spied on her. She got followed. And so it started, right? So in 1962, she wrote a story. And she didn't actually indicate by name who she was writing the story about, but she wrote a story that was about Kennedy and Monroe's affair, right? But everybody came out and said, oh, you were writing about JFK and Marilyn Monroe. And she said, no. She said, actually, I was speaking about Robert Kennedy. It was Robert Kennedy, she believed, was having the affair with Marilyn Monroe. And she did know Marilyn, by the way, so I guess she probably knew what was going on. And a few days after her story broke, Marilyn died, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess that adds to the fact that people were scared that Marilyn was going to come forward and talk about her affair with whomever. But anyway, so that was interesting. Now, at the time of Dorothy's death, all right, she was working on a story about JFK's assassination. She knew someone on the Warren Commission who got her a 102-page testimony from Jack Ruby. And if those of you who aren't sure, Jack Ruby is the person who came up and shot Lee Harvey Oswald when he was being transferred. She also got to interview Ruby as well. She was the only person who actually got to interview him before he died, and she was in there with him for 8 minutes. Nobody really to this day knows what he told her, but he told her something, okay? And she was, as I say, she was really being watched very closely by the CIA and the FBI and the lovely Mr. J. Edgar Hoover. So anyway, so she started to write a story saying that she didn't believe Lee Oswald killed JFK. So that was after her meeting with Ruby, right? So she started writing stories saying that Lee didn't kill JFK. She printed a story also that contained Ruby's testimony, And the reason she did that, she was smart. She knew that if she printed his testimony in full, then it had to be included in what they did in the Warren Commission, like it had to be. So that will probably be something that will definitely come out. Well, people, you can get a hold of that now anyway, his testimony. So she was clever to do that because it couldn't get swept under the carpet, so to speak, and disappear. And then, let's see. So November 1964, she said, and she came out and said to a lot of people, she was a week away from busting the case wide open in regard to who killed JFK. She talked to her hairdresser. She had a hairdresser that came in just about every morning to her apartment to get her ready for the day. I mean, she was well off, so I guess if I was well off, I'd have a hairdresser come in and do my hair too. But she was talking to close friends and said she was getting frightened, though. She knew she was being followed and watched. She knew her phones were being tapped. So she was getting concerned that once she published this story, would it possibly put her and her family in danger? So a few days later, after talking to her friend about that, she was found dead in her apartment in New York.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So, and they say in a similar way to Marilyn, you know how Marilyn was supposedly overdosed and found in her bed dead. I've done point form, so I'll read it out to you, right? So her hairdresser coming to collect her for the day and do her hair and everything, she slept in a particular room in her apartment, right? She wasn't there. So he searched the apartment for her and finally found her in the main bedroom, in bed, sitting up with a book apparently on her lap, no reading glasses, and I believe some pills by the bedside table. So these I did it in point form, so I wouldn't remember. So the night before, so that he come and found her that morning, but the night before she actually went to a particular hotel and had a meeting with someone, and I'll get to that in a minute. She was found in the master bedroom, which she never slept in. The reason being, she found her husband was having an affair and he was sleeping with another woman in that room, in that bed, when she found them. So from the time she found them, she vowed never to even sleep in that bed again because it was, didn't want anything to do with it. So she had another room. She was also wearing, which to men folk would think, but women will know, she was wearing false eyelashes, which back in the day they I think they still do, just glue them on. But anyway, she was wearing false eyelashes, which normally she removed before bed. She was also reading a book called The Honey Badger, but her hairdresser said that she had read that book weeks previously because he also had read it. And they discussed the book and all that sort of thing. So he doubted, like, why would she have that book? Why would she be reading that? But he said also her glasses were missing. She couldn't read without her glasses and they were nowhere in the room. She was wearing a blouse over her nightgown, which she never wore to bed. So she'd never wear clothing, over a nightgown when she went to bed. I mean, that could be just, we don't know if that's odd, but he thought that was odd. She still had in a hair accessory in her hair that she wore, and is actually she wore to the taping of Whose Line Is What's My Line. And he said she wouldn't normally get into bed and leave like makeup and things in her hair. The light was on. Now, that's not unusual. Maybe she could have fallen asleep with the light on, but anyway, the light was on. And the copy of a chapter, now this is the important bit, she was working on that story, right? She was working on a chapter that she was writing for a book and it was nowhere to be found. Like he knew she was working, it was nowhere in the house. So this notebook that she kept and the chapter she was working on for this JFK, I'm going to break it wide open story, missing. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? She had given a copy of that chapter to JFK's ex-mistress. Now, I've got a picture of her somewhere and I'll show you soon, but JFK's ex-mistress's name was Florence Pritchett, right? And she was found dead a few days after Dorothy of a cerebral episode. So a stroke or whatever. That's what they said. So anyway, then it gets better. So it's not, it's you could explain some of this away, but I don't know. So here's Dorothy going to break it wide open. And she says within a week, but within that week, she's dead. Right? Suspicious circumstances. The book that she was writing, the chapters that she was referring to that were going to break it all wide open, missing. The copy that she gave her friend, Pritchett, was also missing, and Pritchett winds up dead a few days later. Right? And then Dorothy was having an affair with a fellow, and I'll get to this. That was who they assume she met at the hotel the night before she died, because that was a usual place for them to meet and get together. His name was Ron Pataki, all right? And he was said to have been working with her on the JFK assassination stuff. But he was also said to be a CIA operative. Her cause of death, they said they found no foul play. They said it was a drug overdose, barbiturates, and alcohol. Now, on the actual death certificate, the coroner wrote circumstances undetermined. But then the coroner was asked later why he put that. He was shown like the autopsy, and he said, "Why?" They said, "Why did you put that on the autopsy?" He said, "I didn't. I didn't write that on the autopsy at all. I don't know who did." So 3 years after her death, they did another investigation on her death, which showed more drugs than what was said, and them were allegedly reported. And there was a book written about her in 1979, and the author's name was Lee Israel, and she referred in the book to someone called the out-of-towner, who was a CIA operative, and before her, he admitted that the out-of-towner was Ron Pataki, and that he had something to do with it, the murder of Dorothy. He died in 2022. He always denied being with her on the night of her death. However, the night of her death, she was seen entering the hotel where they would meet. So that's Dorothy, and I find that absolutely fascinating. And if there was anyone you could talk to on the other side and ask, what the hell did you know, it'd be her. I've watched the episode that aired after her death on What's My Line, and that was sad because she was really I liked watching her. She was cool. But what do you think about all that, guys?
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't hear her. You don't hear much about her that often. Her name has started coming up more recently, I think, as the files are coming back into our awareness. It was a big promise of the Trump campaign that he was going to do this. So people started talking about it a little more. We also had the anniversary of JFK's death recently back in November. So I started hearing a little bit more about her, but it turns out that last year there was a movement to actually have NYPD reopen the case and reinvestigate it. That ended up not happening to my knowledge, but they were being lobbied to do that. And then I guess they're going to come out with a movie based on her life and the investigation and her death. Wow. So that'll be kind of cool. They just announced that earlier this month.
I just wish they'd do something because she was a smart cookie. I mean, she was I just sort of brushed over who she is here, but I've known who she is obviously because I was a fan, and I knew Taylor would probably know who she was also because of being a journalist. But it's to me fascinating, and the my personal opinion on the JFK thing, I don't know what anyone else thinks. Obviously, I know nothing other than what I've read and watched and listened to over the years. Hang on a second. It's all right. It's okay. I was getting messages. It's just Carla. Beautiful picture, Carla. Yeah, I absolutely do not think Oswald Harvey, or whatever his name is, Lee Harvey. Where is he? I'll put his picture up. Hang on. Remove. Where are we? There we go. Bye-bye, Dot. I wonder if she was ever called Dot. Stop sharing. No, I don't want to do that. Stop sharing. I'm talking to myself.
Interesting
again.
that you brought up.
I don't know how many people in chat.
Because
what was that I brought up? What?
I found it interesting that Taylor brought up that they're going to be making a movie out of her, and I imagine here in a month or two, whenever all that stuff's released, we're going to have a lot of movies and specials and documentaries and recaps and everything like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like that's he actually is not too bad looking in that picture, despite the black eye. I always thought he was a skinny little thing, but anyway. Lee Harvey Oswald, for those of you who don't know anything about him, which, oh well, you must live under a rock. But anyway, Lee Harvey, he was in the army. I think it was the army, wasn't it, Enzo?
It was Marines.
Yeah,
Marines. That's right, Marines. Thank you, Taylor. And he was married. Everything that I've learnt about him, sort of, we were made. Well, if it's true, I think he had something to do with it, but I don't think it was his bullet that killed JFK. And the things that I've heard about it indicate that he didn't even hold the gun. Someone else was the shooter, and he was picking up bullets. There's so much about this story of JFK's death that is just, I can't wait for the file to come out, and hopefully it'll shine some light on things. But yeah, I think he was a patsy. I think that they needed someone, and it's interesting to me that he was killed as quickly as he was. He was obviously a threat because he would have known who the players were. And I don't think it's a jump to assume that he was a patsy. I don't think it's a jump to assume he was killed or murdered, really, to stop him from talking. And then you've got Ruby, who obviously did talk. He must have spoken to Dorothy. He's told her something, because it wasn't long after that, obviously, that she's, but then Ruby dies. All these important people that knew stuff or might have known stuff. Monroe might still be a bit of a stretch, but I guess if she was involved with Robert Kennedy, she probably knew stuff. Who knows? Maybe she knew nothing, because apparently before she was killed, she mentioned a news conference, but it was actually going to be to announce that her and what was the baseball player's name, her husband?
Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, Joe and her were going to get back together. Apparently that's what it was going to be, an announcement, and I guess some people panicked and thought, oh shit, she's going to come out and talk about her affair or whatever. So anyway, that's Maryland's another rabbit hole. But yeah, so Oswald, I reckon, was involved, but I don't think he was the one who killed JFK. And of course there's the magic bullet and there's all that sort of thing. And when you learn about the grassy knoll and all the people that say they were involved at end, to me, it was definitely LBJ all the way wanted this to happen. And it's said, and I'm hoping this comes out, it is said that at different parties and stuff shortly before, he was overheard talking about crap. He was involved, he knew, as were they all. I think the California Mafia were, JFK, they were all sort of involved in different things back in the day. So definitely I think the Californian Mafia, maybe Chicago, I don't know, but certainly California, I think maybe all of them had something to do with wanting JFK out of the way. And when you look at the hi Ian, hello, and when you look at what JFK politically was doing at the time, it's certainly very interesting. And then I've looked into Robert Kennedy as well, and Robert, of course, was killed by that fellow. Can't think of his name now. Does anyone know his name? It's a funny name.
Sir.
Yeah. Yeah, that was all very odd too, because he was supposed to leave a different way and then ended up going out through the kitchen. I don't know. So I'm hoping for the current Robert Kennedy, the details on that come out. But again, Robert Kennedy at the time was very much like, I don't want to upset people, but very much like what Trump is like now. He was talking about a whole heap of, it was almost a couple of his speeches, and it was almost like listening to Trump's speech, because he was very much about ending certain things and changing things up, and people were not happy. So, you know, they probably succeeded in another patsy. But that's a conspiracy theory, I suppose, but to me it just makes sense. I don't know. Does anybody else know much about Robert's assassination? No?
I feel that, like, as long as it's been, there's been so much that's come out with wild theories going in all directions that it's pretty much muddied the water, which I think is by design in certain cases.
Mm-hmm.
That
yeah, they do
you're
that.
You're not sure what to believe about any of it.
I'm trying to get to hang on, I'll get rid of that. I'm trying to get to a picture of, if anyone doesn't know, the other lady I want to talk to about in a minute, Karyn. I'll talk about her in a second too, because that was what's it? Heather doesn't know anything about it either, and she says, "Don't tell anyone you know something, lest you disappear."
Exactly.
I know, but I think Dorothy told people close to her, but obviously she didn't tell anyone that she thought she shouldn't. But the problem was she was being watched and tapped, and probably there were, you know, wires in her house, so she was probably doomed from the beginning. Especially once, and well, people, you know, the things they say about J. Edgar Hoover, he was a piece of work. But I yeah, the other lady I wanted to talk about, and I'll put her picture up too. She in my mind, she was a child. She was only 22 when she died. I'll put her picture up. Her name was Karyn Kupcinet, was her name. Show screen, share screen, window. Where are you, Karyn? There she is. Isn't she pretty? And I'll just read my notes on her again, so I don't get off of the subject. So she was actually the daughter, and I wonder how much of this Taylor knows, actually, because of her, you know, journalistic background, but she was the daughter of a very prominent Chicago journalist. He was also a gossip columnist, so back in the 40s and 50s, and his name was Irv Kupcinet, IRV Kupcinet, right? He was friends with lots of movie stars, so if you went to Chicago, you were a movie star, you'd often end up at their place for dinner, etc. So as a child, I'll show you a picture of her as a kid in a minute. As a child, she was always around movie stars, and they'd give her piggybacks and stuff like that. You know, she wanted to be a movie star. And her nickname was Cookie. Let me see if I can find a picture of Cookie. I'll look in a second. I'll show you when I finish talking. So anyway, 1959. She was, I want to say, she was 22 when she died. She must have been about 17, 18. She moved to New York. She wanted to become an actress. But she had a hard time getting into acting because people were saying, oh, you're too fat, or, you know, going, as they used to and still do, go on about a woman's looks. So she started to get a little bit upset about how she looked and everything, pretty insecure about it. And her dad was friends with Jerry Lewis. So Jerry Lewis said, send your kid to me. I'll give her a part in one of my movies, which he did. He did give her a part in one of his movies. She was 19 when he did that. So she arrives in Hollywood, 1960. But she wasn't like most people that turned up in Hollywood, like penniless and had to work as a waitress. She had money. Her dad had money. She had money. She moved to Hollywood with her grandma, and they lived together for a while. It wasn't until she was a bit older that she moved out into an apartment on her own. she had plastic surgery done to change her nose and her chin because she was still thinking, oh, I'm not pretty enough. So she had pretty bad body image issues. She was, she yo-yo diet. She didn't think she was pretty enough. She thought she was too fat. She didn't think she was good enough. So speaking as a woman, probably
this person thought that she was too fat and needed nose surgery and all that.
Yeah,
she looks fantastic.
Yeah.
She was beautiful, absolutely stunning. And she met. I've got to find his picture. I'll show you. I've got pictures everywhere, but I put them in the wrong folder. Hang on, let me find my little folder. I think this is it. She met an actor. Where did I put it? That's not it.
She really does look like you would see her like in the background on a Star Trek show.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of Star Trek, and that's what I'm trying to find, because I did this on my laptop last night. Now I can't find the freaking stupid folder on this bit. I'll just put his name in, and I'll bring up a picture of him in a second. But she met an actor, and the actor's name was, where are you, Andrew? Andy Prine was his name. He was an actor. He was in Star Trek a couple of times, but he was in a lot of shows back in the day. Good-looking fellow. I'll find a picture of him in a second. Anyway, she started a relationship with him, and she was getting bit parts. She got a regular part in a show, something called I can't remember, a Hawaiian type show. So she was getting bit parts, but still not really breaking into acting like she wanted to. But she started seeing Andrew. But Andrew was a good-looking man, and he too was only young, so there were lots of women flinging themselves at him. And he didn't really want a very deep relationship with her, so he was trying to put her off because she was really clingy. Oh, she got pregnant to him, all right? So does anybody know Don out of Lost in Space?
Yeah.
Mark Goddard? Yeah. So Mark Goddard and his wife were good friends with her. And she went to them and said, I'm pregnant, what do I do? And obviously Andy wanted nothing to do with it. Mark took, and this is expensive back in the day because this is 1960, I want to say 1962 or something. Mark took out $400, and he's got a book. Actually, Mark Goddard wrote a book, and he talks about this in his book. He got $400 out, and himself and his wife drove her down to Mexico, Tijuana, I think, and she got rid of the baby, right? They brought her home, and I'll get to that in a minute. But she became really obsessed with Andy. Like, she became a little bit of a stalker and a nut job. She would actually sneak into his house and hide in the attic and listen to him. And when he was with other women and stuff, like, she would peek through his window. She wrote threatening letters, so letters from someone, with newspaper and stuff, to say, we're going to kill you, and we're going to kill you, Andy, and we're going to kill your girlfriend. And so Andy, thinking, oh, shit, I've got to protect her. So it was a way of her bringing Andy back and looking after her. They didn't know that until after her death, because they looked at Andy gave the police these letters and said, oh, Christ, it could have been this person. But it turned out when they did stuff, it was her fingerprints and everything in the glue and whatever. So that was a bit sad. But anyway, I'm getting off subject. So anyway, so that all happened. And so the night of her death, and the reason I'm linking her into this is it's just interesting. I still don't think that maybe there was a connection, but it's interesting. Because of who her father was, he also knew mafia, right? He had friends, and he knew Jack Ruby. He had been friends with Jack Ruby. So this is Karyn's dad, was friends with Jack Ruby. Whether or not he'd had contact with him recently is unknown. But apparently a couple of days before she died, she'd made a phone call. Now, I don't know who to, whether it was 000 or what do we call it, 999 or 911, whatever you call it. I don't know if it was to that or whether or not she was just on the phone, but an operator, she was screaming over the phone, and she was saying her words were, because I'm remembering this all off of the top of my head now. She rang calling, the president is going to be killed. So she's talking, the president's going to be killed. The president's going to be killed. 20 minutes later, he was shot dead. How did she know that? And then a couple of days later, she was dead. So what happened there, again, Mark Goddard, Don from Lost in Space. So they'd done the abortion thing. She'd come home. This phone call occurred where she said they're going to shoot the president. The president was shot dead. It had been a couple of days since they got back from Mexico, and Mark and the wife hadn't been able to get her on the phone, and they hadn't heard from her. And because of how she was and a bit unstable, they thought, shit, we better go and check she's okay. Mark and the wife turned up at her apartment, and Mark said, I'll run up. But when he got up there and he knocked on the door opened, so it wasn't shut properly. And he said at that time he felt a bit funny, and he pushed the door open and he looked in and he thought he saw her naked, and he went, I'm just going to go and get the wife. So he went and got the wife. They both came up, they both entered, and unfortunately they found Karyn on the sofa. I can't remember she was face down on the sofa, naked and dead. Right? They turned her over because obviously they wanted to check, are you dead and whatever. But yeah, she'd been dead for a few days. It was pretty yucky. And police were involved, etc. The outcome was that she was murdered. They believe she was strangled because her hyaline, what do you call it? High of the bone, it was broken. So people tried to say, no, she wasn't murdered. It was suicide, or she's fallen over and she's just bumped it, and that's caused her to die. The night she died, the night that she died, she had been, I think they were ruled out. They found out who they were. She had been out that night, and two of her male friends came home with her, and they chatted or whatever, and they left. And it was later that night that she was killed. So who killed her? They never found out. Andy, the actor / boyfriend, was a suspect, but he was cleared. No other suspects, but it was just interesting that who her father was, who he knew, and the fact that she had made that phone call stating they're going to kill the president. And 20 minutes later, he was dead. That is way too, what the hell? So why did she do that? Who told her that? So possibly her dad, or maybe she's overheard her dad talking about it. People have tried to say, oh, no, he hadn't had anything to do with Jack Ruby for years, blah, 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 blah. But night, Betty. But, yeah, so just very interesting. Hi, Dawn.
And then she dies within a week of that phone call. It was in a week of Kennedy. That's insane.
She actually died on his day, the day of his funeral.
Wow.
That's when that's when they found her, the day of the funeral. So it's quite
another loose end. That's sad.
Yeah, it's quite possible, because I think they buried him pretty quick, because his funeral's on the 30th of November. What date was he killed?
22nd.
Yeah, so she'd made the phone call then. So yeah, her body was found on November 30th. So, and they think she'd been dead for a few days when she was found, because she'd already started to bloat and, what happens when you die. So yeah, it's very interesting. She was only 22, and obviously she had some mental health issues. But it's just, how do you explain that phone call? Really weird. So it would be interesting. I'm probably more fascinated in finding out what happened, what Dorothy had, because this story is interesting. It's sad, but there are connections. So I'm hoping. Hi, Dee. I'm hoping that whatever happens in the relation to releasing these files, that we find something out, like whether or not Karyn was involved. That phone call is weird, and her father certainly had certain contacts, Chicago and Hollywood. And then you've got Dorothy, same thing, who said the CIA and the mafia were working together. And that was to assassinate, what was his name? I said it before.
Castro?
The Cuban, yeah. Fidel, yeah, Castro. So I don't know. Anybody want to add anything?
Well, it's interesting that Karyn is found within 1 year of Marilyn Monroe. It sounds like in a very similar circumstance.
Right.
I mean, not an overdose, presumably, or what looks like one, but nude, upside down. It's in both in Hollywood. It's very
well. Yeah. With Karyn, it was designated that she was strangled. Death by strangulation, but yes, you're correct, there were drugs and things, so they say, involved. She was on not bad drugs, she was on, well, sort of, she was on speed, I guess, because back in the day she was on diet pills. She was addicted to the diet pills.
Yeah,
and diet pills, of course,
Crazy.
back in the day, and still have speed, for want of a better description, in them. So
just looking on her wiki, she's amazingly beautiful. To think that she was badgered into thinking she needed to lose weight and all that, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's very, very sad, but it obviously started at a young age, and it's it's just sad. Hollywood's not. Well, I don't like Hollywood anymore. Too much is coming out now. It's just, what's Ian saying? Were there any organisations at the time that weren't working together? No, and they probably still do.
Apparently, according to all the stories you hear, when it came to JFK, they were all working together. They all had a common goal.
And the aliens.
Well, yeah, I don't think there was aliens. I don't know, but oh well, they say. Well, I'm trying to remember. Was it LBJ that was supposed to have met with aliens? I'm trying to remember. One of them was supposed to have.
No, I've never heard that one. Well, there's a famous story about Eisenhower.
Yeah, Eisenhower.
Eisenhower. Sorry, yeah, I knew I had the president wrong. See, I knew Enzo would know. Our resident science guy. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. I've gone off.
But aliens are a theory in JFK's assassination. That is one.
It is.
Really?
Supposedly he wanted to release everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I interviewed a guy for one of my stories on ufology, and he had worked for decades at McDonnell Douglas. And he's the one who first told me that, and he showed me a document that supposedly was leaked that shares information about that. But I don't know.
That's right, because JFK was talking about being more open about the UFO type situation, and even to this day, we know that presidents have been told, "Shh, no, we're not." Like getting shown things and
if they're told anything at all.
That make me laugh. Who says Diddy did it? He probably bloody did.
Time traveling Diddy did it. Yeah.
Time traveling Diddy. Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, I don't know. I just 100% feel in my gut that absolutely the president, vice president at the time, because you've got to look into, people go, oh, all this, but you've got to look into what was JFK doing politically, what was he talking, so what, that was one of them, be more open with the people and release certain documents and tell people stuff. There was other stuff, there was the Cuban thing, there was him wanting to work with different people, and people hated it. So a political assassination, I mean, don't care what people think, but that's certainly what happened. I can't wait to find out about the Trump assassination thing. I'm pretty sure that's high on Mr. Trump's list to find out how that happened. But it happens. They think people are stupid, and they organise these things. Oh, it was a Lee Harvey Oswald. He was a lone wolf. They always come up with lone gunman. Robert Kennedy, lone gunman, just a crazy person. Trump, lone gunman, just a crazy person. So it's just one of the normal things they try to do. So I'm very much, I'm with you on that too, Boo. I'm very, very much in line that
it certainly has been, redone many times by, some sharpshooters in the past. It seems like about every 8 to 10 years, somebody comes out with a thing. It's like, we got our best sharpshooter with the exact same gun, and they're going to try and recreate it. And most of them can't. What did he just get super lucky? Well, that's possible, but not very likely to get in every shot that he did. But of course, there's always that argument that always comes up that the people that were on the ground said they heard multiple shots coming from different directions, which
multiple shooters, for sure.
Daly Plaza was not as built up as it is today, where there was several smaller buildings there that wouldn't necessarily create like a echo type effect. Just gunshots started coming off where you might think it's coming from over there because the sound bounced off of a different building or something like that, like it is today. It's a little more built up today, but the magic bullet, I feel like that one's been debunked for a long time, because they had it where it's like one bullet going through the guy's arm and all that. But if you do just the slightest adjustment on the person that, was it the governor that got hit in the arm and the hand? If you move his hand just a little bit, where his body position is just slightly different from what they say it was, it works. Everything kind of works as far as that goes. But there were still multiple bullets flying around at that same time that may or may not be accounted for. There's an endless. We could go on till the actual files are released. In a few weeks, with all the possible things, that he was accidentally shot from behind by one of the security services guys because they weren't familiar with the weapon and stuff like that. It goes on and on and on, and that's the thing. When the government doesn't give you full disclosure, people are just going to start making shit up to fill it in, and everybody's got a theory and everything. So you get this runaway crazy train of ideas of what it could possibly be, and there's no way to disprove any of it. There's no way to prove any of it. So they just go hog wild to where you've got everything from his own vice president orchestrating it because he thinks he's being too soft on them evil Ruskies, or all the way to time travelers having to change the timeline because of he did all of these things that ended up being bad in the future, that kind of stuff, where it gets really crazy time.
I watched an interview, a pretty long one, went for an hour and a half. There was they say he's lying. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what comes out, but why would you lie? There's a prisoner, I think he's passed away now. He was in, let me think. He was in the Stateville Correctional Center at Illinois. His name was James Files. He was in prison because he attempted to kill a police officer, but he says he was set up for that one. So that's a whole, you have to watch the interview. But he was a CIA operative. And Enzo, you might know more about what I'm trying to describe here. The ones that they're an operative, they're not employed by the CIA. They just work. They're like a contractor, and they have handlers. Well, he was approached, and he hated JFK. He hated him, right? JFK, like Trump derangement, that he hated him. he wouldn't care if JFK died tomorrow. Like, that's how he felt. And he says that in the interview. So he was approached, but not only him, according to him. There were many players. He was one of them because he was a sharpshooter. He was in the Army too, and I'm trying to remember what his job was in the Army. I think he was Special Forces or Marine, but when he was in the forces, he was a sniper. Right, so he knew how to use different guns. He goes on. I'll put a link later to this interview, but he goes on to describe the gun he used. And it had a sight on it, and so the sight, he knew his bullet was the one that took off JFK's skull, and he describes it. He said at the time he felt nothing. He said now, however, he still kind of doesn't feel nothing, but he can see. He wishes he probably, retrospectively. But he hated him. He didn't care that he died, and he knew his shot was the one. But he said there were other players because there had to be people in place if he missed. There was no missing that day. It was clear that there was no missing. So there was other people in play. He said there was someone in the depository, but he said Harvey Oswald was not the one that was to do the shooting because he wasn't a good shot. They'd been out. He had met with Oswald. They had been out on a range, and he said Oswald was shit. But Oswald was basically, when he was practicing, Oswald was apparently picking up his shells. And he said, so the plan was Oswald would be in the building, the book suppository, along with another person. I can't remember if in the interview he named him. I don't think he named anybody. But he said there were shooters.
It was, right? To be fair, it was a book depository, not a book suppository that you just said. So.
Oh, did I say suppository? It must be a glitch in my microphone. But anyway, long story short, James swears black and blue he is the one that shot him. He described where he was, though, in where the grassy knoll is, behind the grassy knoll. And I've looked at pictures. So, yeah, just behind the grassy knoll, there's like a train, what do you call them, where they keep all the carriages of the trains, like there's a train depot, a train yard where they just store everything when they're not actually on the tracks. Yeah, he said that's where they were. They had, and it wasn't just him, there was other people involved. He said there were messages coming down from some mafia people in both Dallas and California. Like, he goes into it in great detail. And I watched the whole thing, and I thought, yeah, I kind of believe him. And so he said that it is his understanding that the vice president at the time was not happy with JFK either, and he was wanting this to happen, as were a lot of other people in big businesses, etc. That, like we were just saying, certain things were going to come out that big businesses didn't want to have come out, and it was time, and they needed to get him, and they bloody got him, didn't they? So I absolutely believe that the vice president was behind it. Plus, I've seen some pictures. I don't know if you have, Taylor, but I've seen some photographs of LBJ on the day, because he got sworn in straight away on that day, obviously, but he got sworn in, I believe, at the hospital. And there's a picture of him.
I was an Air One. Yeah.
And Jackie Onassis, Jackie Kennedy at the time, standing right next to him, still with the blood of her husband's brain all over.
Yes. Incredible. And he's got, but there's certain photos of him smiling. And I'm like, who would be smiling on a day? I mean, unless it was mid-conversation and he smiled at someone, and that just happens to be, But I just think anyone who says it wasn't a government job, it wasn't I think just haven't educated themselves on all the facts. But if they actually come out and then release this file and go, oh, no, it was certainly just Lee Harvey Oswald, well, then I'll move to America. But I wouldn't move to America anyway, so that's not really a threat, is it? But yeah, so it's just... I don't know. I can put the interview with him I've got. Let me see. Because every now and then I watch it again, because he says so much.
It's
I'll
really fascinating.
that's the link if anybody wants to sort of cut and paste
There's
it.
two
And
of
pop
them.
it.
He did one, I believe, in the early. There's two of them. He did one, I believe, in the early 90s, and he did one like more like 2007, 8-ish. But both are. He's basically saying the same, but both are fascinating.
I mean, I don't even know how poor Jackie was even standing up that day. And you can see it like
I'm
that.
Shocked that why is she even there? Why would she not be riding in the ambulance with her husband at the hospital? Because they did rush him to the hospital immediately, even though it was fairly obvious that he was already gone. But
do you know just a FYI do you know who was present in the hospital car park that day? And as a matter of interest, he saw everything, people running around and stuff. He was out in the car park. Meatloaf. He tells a story about Meatloaf was in Dallas. I don't know if he was born there. I never paid that much attention, but he was there. I think he was. I think he lived in Dallas or something. He was there with a whole heap of friends, and I can't remember why he said they ended up being at the hospital, but they were in the hospital car park, Secret Service and stuff. They'd heard on the radio and whatnot. But, Meatloaf. So I'll have to find that later on. He just told a story on an interview one day, and I found that fascinating. So, but yeah, he was there. Just a FYI. Poor old Meatloaf. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm certainly keen to find out. And the Martha. I can say Martin Luther King. Forgive me for saying your name wrong. That was the other thing. I think my friend Holly the other day said, oh, well, that's no biggie. He was just shot by some crazy person. And I thought, no, it's not as simple as that either with Martin Luther. Because, again, there's another person, lone wolf, that gets shot. I haven't looked into it as deeply as I have the others, but I know that he was shot on the balcony. There's some question about the direction from where the bullet came that shot him. The person who shot him was an escaped convict, and they say he was a racist, etc., and that's why he did what he did. But again, here's another person like JFK, like Robert Kennedy, like Mr. Trump, another person, Martin Luther King, civil rights movement. A lot of people didn't like that. He was also against the Vietnam War. A lot of people didn't like that. So he was getting a real movement up, and people loved him. And he was becoming a threat to the government and what they wanted to put in place. So I'm just saying.
Honestly, the Vietnam War was the crux, I feel, for a lot of these assassinations back during that time period, because there are a lot of people dead set against getting involved with it. And getting America mixed up in it somehow. And of course, after JFK was assassinated, that's when we went in whole hog as Americans, where we started sending all kinds of stuff over there then, just to be bogged down in that mire, just like a bunch of other countries before us, because of how complicated it is over there. So I imagine that's probably going to be the closest to the truth of all of this stuff. Whenever we do see all the stuff, it was a lot about keeping us out of there, amongst other things that JFK was pro on.
Oh, yes. Dorney. Yes. Because that's the name, for those who don't know. It's James Ray that killed, shot, apparently, we think, shot Martin Luther King. But yeah, you went to that prison, didn't you? But yeah, he did escape the prison, and was it Brushy Mountain the second time? Because he did escape, and that's how he got out but they must have sent him to Brushy Mountain later, did they, Dorney, when they caught him? But what was that? America lost that war, police action, didn't they?
Yeah, it didn't turn out so well for us.
No, it didn't.
Much like every other country that had gone in before. France was in there pretty thick. They were the ones trying to convince us to come in to help and all that stuff. It was very complicated over there.
Yeah, thanks, Dawn. Yeah, so he was put into Brushy Mountain prison. Is it Joe that's got that episode on his channel when you investigated Brushy Mountain? It's on Joe's channel, isn't it, the episode? If anybody's interested in watching a ghosty type investigation and learning a little bit about Brushy Mountain Prison, I'm pretty sure Joe's got an episode on his channel.
They caught him pretty quick, 54 hours later, it says here, just looking at the bio on it.
Yeah. There was a fair bit about him too, and I'm trying to remember what it was. There was yes, he was racist for sure. Did he shoot him? Don't know, but probably. But again, they're saying why and who got it, because it was unusual. There was unusual events around it, because when he escaped, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, Martin Luther King and this fellow that shot him left somewhere at the same time. It was almost like this guy was told this is where he's going to go, you follow him. So do I think he killed him? Probably.
Apparently he was serving a 99-year sentence for assassinating Martin Luther King Jr. And with the escape where they caught him 8.5 miles away in the rugged mountains area, because this is in Tennessee, right? Yeah. And the Ray's sentence was increased by 1 year to make it 100 years in prison he would serve for the escape attempt.
Dorothy says he contorted his body into a bread box to escape on a delivery truck because he was a prison chef. A new delivery time. So that was from the Missouri State Penitentiary.
That was from the Missouri one. The Tennessee one was him and 6 other inmates climbed over a fence using a homemade ladder made from lightning conduit wire, is what the article says.
Wow. So he does. So, oh God, I've just gone completely blank. Entity 7. Went completely blank and forgot Joe's channel. Entity 7. Paranormal, go check it out because my mod Tanya isn't here today. How dare she? Because she does all this for me.
I was wondering why it was so quiet looking in the chat.
I know. If you're watching this retrospectively, Tanya, yes, we're missing you because you're quiet. There's no cheekiness. There's no saying he's hot. There's no saying sexy Enzo. What's going on?
Kind of miss it.
Oh dear, my child is at the front door locked out. Hang on a second. Give me a second. Can I just disappear for a second, guys? I'll leave Enzo
we'll talk amongst ourselves.
Entertain you for 5 seconds while I let my child in the front door.
So ladies, what do you think about all this? JFK files release. What's your prediction? What do you imagine we're going to see out of all of it?
Well, I've been waiting for this day for a long time, and I've been really looking forward to it. I've read what has, a good chunk of what has been released of each of these cases, and I'm excited to see what was held back. Right, like you were saying, it could, or like Karyn was kind of saying, well, who knows? Can we trust what gets released in this new batch? And to a degree, it is kind of like being, fed by the hand that bit you, almost, right? You're
right. How do you believe it?
Yeah, pretty much.
You're kind of like, I don't know. You can be a little gun shy. Do we trust this information that's being put out there? But it's still interesting to read.
And that's the thing about this has gone on for so long, even with the official documents signed and delivered to everybody's hand, where everybody can scour over every little dot, sentence, and paragraph. And there's a strong possibility if it doesn't say what they think it's going to be, they're not going to believe it. So
that's true.
Yeah, I don't think the truth is going to come out.
Oh, you don't think it's going to be the truth at all?
I think the truth that they want us to think is going to come out. That's about it.
Maybe, but I, despite what other people in the chat might think, I trust that if it can come out, Trump will let it come out because he's pissed. He's
well, like you said earlier,
I know that Robert Kennedy,
if they had the truth, I don't think they documented it.
No, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, let's just say all the rumors about LBJ at dinner parties, sitting with his mafia friends and his political friends, and they had deep state then, talking with all these rich people. Yeah, friggin' John's going to ruin it. He's going to say this, he's going to do this, he wants to end that. How are we going to make our money? He doesn't want the war in Vietnam. How are we going to make our money? He's already settled the freaking Cuban crisis. That would have been brilliant for making money. What the hell are we going to do with John? I'm fucking over it. Even if he did have that conversation, and even if that's how it happened, I still kind of, FBI or CIA agent kept notes and put them in the file. I don't know how. I don't know. It's kind of like I would expect that it would have been covered up pretty. I mean, look, how many years, how old am I? 62 years the man's been dead. 62, 63 years the man's been dead, and we still have no truth. It's all come down to what people do, like we're doing today, sit and talk and look at the facts and try and make sense of the facts as we know them. So, I don't know. The only person who... Yes, sorry.
One of the theories why they have not released it over all this time is that the truth is some government agencies at some level were responsible for the assassination of all three of the people that we're talking about here. And to release that information, people would lose trust in the federal government all the way around. At this current state in history, we already have a fairly low opinion of our government right now. So they don't really have a lot to lose. So now is the perfect time, if that was the case, to go ahead and let it out.
Yeah. Heather, the other thing, Heather, of course, is we had a we had a prime minister. I should move to America. We had a prime minister called Harold Holt. I want to say it was 1967, could have been 1966, but again, not a popular prime minister for the day. He went to a beach down in Victoria, went out swimming and never came back. Never found the body, nothing. There were all these silly rumors like, oh, he swam out and was picked up by a Russian submarine. He was a Russian spy. Like, oh, fuck so. He drowned. But it's interesting, his body was never found. So, conspiracy theories, and that was around the time of all this as well. So one wonders, did Harold know anything as well? Don't know. And then, Heather's just saying we also had a prime minister called Gough Whitlam. He was never murdered, but funnily enough, only prime minister in our history that was removed. See, Australia has a different system. So we are under the Queen and the monarchy. We're in the Commonwealth. But back in the day when Gough Whitlam was prime minister, and Heather can correct me if I say anything wrong, we still have a Governor General that answers to the King or the Queen. But the Governor General was asked to remove Gough Whitlam from power. And that's because Gough was going to end the Vietnam, like our presence in the Vietnam War, a few other things, but that was one of them. Anyway, apparently the Queen was the only one, the Queen said, remove him. It came out later on that she did. At the time, that was covered up. The Queen had nothing to do with it. So something odd happened there. Again, all sort of, actually, was it, hang on, Heather, was it the Vietnam War? Yeah, it had to have been, because we were still in Vietnam, I think, but he was going to, I think he did. He ended conscription, you have to go. National service. He ended that. But yeah, a lot going on. And so a lot of, and Australia is very, very much connected to America, despite Americans may not know that, but we're probably, I would say we're your best ally. I mean, if you say, come and help us, we're off. Like that little puppy in the cartoons.
My dear, I have to sign off. But it was great chatting with you. I have to sign off. So.
Oh, yeah, it does have to go. But Taylor and I are going to get together soon and give you lots of fun things to talk about, aren't we, Taylor? Give my love to Peter, please.
I will. And the dogs.
And the dogs. And the bear if you see him, but it's too warm.
You got it.
All right, sweetheart. See the wild horses. My love.
Bye, Taylor. Bye.
Bye.
See you, mate. Bye. So a lot of interesting things that I think normally we just choose to, I can't be bothered, I've got to go to work, I have to pay my rent, I have to feed the family, and you hear things and you pay attention and then you don't pay attention, and it depends who you watch, who you listen to on the news, all that sort of thing. But my only advice to anyone watching is when you're watching something on the news, when you're listening to the media, listen, but then, go into it a bit deeper yourself and research things, because so much, even now that am I allowed to say COVID? I don't care. Even the COVID thing, now the truth has come out about what Fauci did and what the World Health Organization knew. And
he's been retroactively pardoned for anything, even though he didn't do anything.
Yeah, asshole. But there you go. So that's all come out. So we know that lives were ruined, lives were lost, businesses destroyed, people lost their homes, all because of that. Well, not just him, but that dickhead. And what gets me is a lot of people go, oh no, I don't know what drugs they're on, but it's out. There's a report on it. That's why he's got the preemptive pardon. So, there's so much, and people just automatically jump to the conclusion that what they hear certain people that they might like or whatever talking about, but they said, well, good, but now your job is to listen to what they said and you pull it all out and you research it and you watch it and you make an informed decision as to if what they told you is true or if there's something a little bit different. And that's why this whole situation with Kennedy, Martin Luther, anyone really, even with what happened to Trump last year, all highly suspicious. So I'm hoping that the truth will come out. And I think also now the world should count themselves lucky that there's going to be a big cleanup. That's all I'll say. Thank God. What's Heather saying? Whitlam was known as a socialist back then, but he wasn't that kind of socialist. He was a small liberal, which didn't help, and made sweeping reforms across the country. Yeah, he wasn't. I was only a little girl, but I know that my dad was involved with the Labor Party, which is now probably akin to a Democratic Party of like Biden's stature. So here in Australia, a lot of people aren't very happy. But Labor used to be all about the people. Now it's different. It's kind of almost reversed. So now a Liberal Party, it's almost a reversal, much like it's happened in America. And I know that when I was a little girl, my dad, being a member of the Labor Party, we would go to a lot of functions. So I remember meeting Mr. Whitlam at one of these functions, but I was only a little girl, but I knew who he was. And I met a lot of other people involved too. But I would hear my dad talking about things, and growing up, Dad would explain things to me as well. So all very interesting in how politics works. And it's also very interesting how we elect these people to do certain jobs to make our lives easier. And I think we just let them do their thing. We don't realize that they forget that we put them there. They forget our tax dollars pay their wage, and they become greedy. And that's just how I see it. All of them. I don't think there's any exception. The only, and no one's going to like me for saying this, But there is no difference really at the moment in parties, is there? They're both as bad as each other, but I certainly won't be getting with our Prime Minister, Albanese is his name. What a wanker. I won't be voting for him. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. Probably, I don't know, but I'm not voting for him. He wants to stop free speech and everything, arsehole. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that we need to be a little bit more careful. And as much as people, for example, don't like Mr. Trump, everybody knows I do. See, there he is, keeping an eye on me, my little Trump on the shelf. The one thing I'll say about him is he is a billionaire. He could be doing something completely exciting. He doesn't need money. He could be laying on a beach. He could be enjoying his life, playing golf every day. He doesn't need to draw the wage of the president. I'd be interested actually to see because I think, I don't know, but I think last time he was president, he didn't draw a wage. I'm pretty sure he didn't. I could be wrong.
He gave it to charities, from what I heard.
Yeah, he donated to charities every month, I think, or every quarter. I forget.
Right.
So that's probably what he's going to do this time. So, if we had a billionaire here in this country that didn't need to be paid what our Prime Minister needs to be paid, and said, hey, I'm envious, to be honest. You guys at the moment, fingers crossed, it all goes as to plan, but you're super lucky at the moment, I reckon. I think things will just get better. There'll be people that'll want to get in the way and make trouble, no doubt. Because people will still try to create war, but yeah, I'm just more open to keeping my eyes open now. And I hear things even on news that is favourable to Mr. Trump. I still, do I agree with everything that Mr. Trump is saying or doing? No, not 100%. No, but I can see why, and and I think it'll be okay. And I don't mind.
That's going to be the case with any politician, or actually any other human. You're never going to find another human on the planet that 100% agrees with everything that you believe or thoughts or ideas on how to do things.
Exactly.
It's impossible. There's way too many permutations in it. Unfortunately, some people are locked into like a one item only. They're a one, single item voter kind of a thing, where if it's not this way for this one specific thing, they're off. They're
right,
bad guys from World War II, that kind of thing. And that's a ridiculous way to go through life. Honestly,
I think. Yeah, I think so. Like even in my own family at the moment with my girls, they know that I like Mr. Trump. To be honest, I've always liked him. I liked him when he wasn't a president. I liked him when he was "you're fired." I liked him when he was
exactly. Everybody loved him in the old "you're fired" days. He was a giant.
Home Alone. He was always in little movies doing bits. He was on SNL hosting. Like, I like him. He makes me laugh. He's funny.
He's part of the World Wrestling. Entertainment, I guess. Now he was part of WWE, back in the day.
That's right. Didn't he go up on stage and wrestle someone, or have he had an argument with someone? I'm sure he did.
Yeah, it was him and Vince McMahon, who was of course all the. Sorry if you didn't know. Wrestling's fake. It's
yeah.
Sorry,
you just crushed my world.
That may be worse than the JFK reveal. Look, they abandoned me even back here. Look at that.
You did it.
But it's one of those things where he was mixed up with those guys for a short period of time, and I believe he was involved with the part where Vince McMahon was the bet was whoever won or whoever lost had to get like their head shaved and stuff like that, which of course Donald won. Oh. So Vince McMahon had to have his head shaved. He's got 4 or 5 wrestlers holding him down in the middle of the ring. He's all screaming. Big production, all that stuff. Fans loved it.
Glad I missed it.
I don't know. Yeah, but that's the thing. See, and I'm a little bit older than you, Enzo, but I'm from that era where I knew who he was so far as television is concerned, and people loved him. But then obviously when he ran for president, not so much. Oh, in the beginning they did. They kind of thought it was a novelty. They thought it was funny. Oh, he won't get in.
They think he had a chance to win. Yeah,
Yeah.
They thought it was.
But then when they realized he was serious, that's when all the bullshit was, oh, he's this and he's that and he's this and that. And the more they did it, the more people went, stop picking on him. And the more people, that's all right, Heather. I just said Heather if she wanted to, could, but that's all right. Come on. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. The more they said, no, he's shit. And because people did love him and thought he was funny, they're like, don't pick on him. Fuck you. And they voted for him. And he got in. And I think it probably surprised him as much as it surprised everybody else.
Well, originally, it was him or Hillary Clinton. Which, if you know anything about Hillary Clinton, she's a honestly, to revert back to JFK stuff, she has her own trail of bodies behind her. So she's just as despicable as some of those folks, and a lot of people didn't like her. And they were under the impression that
including her husband,
they could kind of do whatever they want. It was going to be easy. It was going to be shooing because, the guy with the weird hair, he can't possibly win again. Wrong. And because a lot of people disliked her. So that shot, that was like this, seismic force originally with him. And then it was everybody was off to the races to try and discredit the guy and just say crap about him all the time, even stuff that wasn't true, which economy was great after a few years. People respected the country again. The man literally walked across the DMZ into North Korea and is laughing and joking with the guy. It's like, I gotta go back now. These guys are getting nervous, that kind of stuff. Just amazing. Nobody's ever done that without getting a bullet in him.
All right.
And he just casually did it.
Do you know what I heard him say the other day, which I went, because he's a real estate guy. That's how he made his money. He was talking about, what's his name? Jong Gung, whatever he's, the North Vietnamese fellow. He said, I kind of get on all right with him. He's got some great real estate. Yeah, he says he's got some great real estate there on the ocean, prime real estate.
They made a promo movie kind of thing. It's like, this is what you can have if you have it. And it was showed people surfing and hiking in the mountains and all kinds of cool stuff.
And I'm like, wouldn't that be a giggle if he actually got to the point where that man, the leader of North Vietnam, starts to think, and all of a sudden, where are you off to for your summer holidays? North Vietnam.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's having said that, you've got to remember it's pretty bad over there for the North Vietnamese, and one would hope that some kind of change.
North Korea, but
it's not a but I just think.
She's frozen.
Oh man, I was like, wow, that's a really serious dramatic pause.
That's what I was thinking too at first.
It was my internet.
Hang on for the profound. Here it comes.
Right, we were waiting and
But I don't know. And I'm excited for America's future, and I'm glad that I was never scared to indicate that I liked Mr. Trump. But when I would say that, Marxist and blah, blah, and I'm like, what the fuck? I just like him. I've always liked him before he was a president. Like, I'm allowed to like people.
I like this past week, which shows how just they have zero impact anymore. The mainstream media, when supposedly. Elon Musk
Don't get me
basically,
started.
as a white man, he raised his hand above his waist. That, of course, can only mean one thing. And nobody cared. It was just like, you're an idiot if you believe that. And just the backlash on that was amazing. It's like,
I actually had to, my daughter, I was shaking my head and I said, honestly, are people stupid? And I said something to my daughter. She goes, oh, I saw that. That was definitely a Hail Hitler. I said, it fucking was not. And besides that, the Hail Hitlers would go, you know, it wasn't, he went.
Now you've had it. Now you've nailed the thing. We're all going to be in trouble now.
Oh, for God's sakes. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, did anyone actually listen to him talking? Does anyone? Yeah. And I said to my daughter, I said, sweetheart.
You guys all voted for him and all that. My heart goes out to you. And that's what he said.
So, and he was excited. And if you watch him from the start when he comes out, he's, he gets so excited. He was, and he's hyper. He's autistic or Asperger's, and they do tend to get hyper. You know, they can. Some don't. Some are very quiet. But you know, I've got a couple of autistic children. I think I know what I'm talking about. And I watch him. Do I like Elon Musk? Yes, I do. Do I agree with everything he says? No, but I don't have to. But I like him. He's very smart. Right. And I like his ideas. You know, he's very smart. He's not rich for no reason. But I was watching him and I was giggling at how excited he was. And he goes, oh, I give my heart to you. Like, so thank you so much. But I give my heart to you. And then he turned around and he gave his heart to the people in the back as well. But they edited it down to just and I'm like,
just the part where his hand comes out. Yeah.
Yeah. And my daughter goes, but it didn't look like that. So I said, well, you know, you need to watch it in full and you need to watch it with the understanding, full context, not just these little bites that people put out. So I'm over it. You know what I mean? I'm over it. I'm absolutely over it. I just sort of think I'm sick of it.
Most everyone else is as well. So that was what I found hilarious about all of it, because 4 years ago, that was like the standard attack on people from the right and Trump and all that other stuff, where it's just, look at these things he did. A lot of people, basically it was people would actually for the first time ever watch like a live press conference during when COVID was going on. When it was first starting up and they were talking about different things and they would watch the live, when is this over? Maybe this will be the day. He's going to like, all right, we figured it out. It's a little things. If you take some vitamins, you'll be fine. Just, they would watch the stuff. And then of course they would watch like the afternoon news, 6 PM, here in the States or whatever. And they would see that it would be like it's like, wait a minute, I watched this press conference live. That's not what he said. That's not even close to what he said. So a lot of people, because their attention was specifically on, the politics part of it, because it was affecting their daily lives, getting locked in their homes, can't go to the store without putting a diaper on your face, all that stuff.
Did you wear a diaper on your face, Laura?
Most of the time, no. I didn't put the mask on.
Well, that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize in the U.S., at least. When you got outside of the cities, where they were fairly militant about wearing the masks, nobody wore a fucking mask, and we all turned out just fine.
I
don't know. In America,
they had the stores where you had to go one direction only. I didn't follow that either.
Oh yeah.
Did you here? Unfortunately, here if you didn't wear a mask, people would point at you, but also you would get a fine.
No, you just got yelled at here.
No, here you would pay. You'd get a fine. Some people, I think some people got arrested if they were doing things like making trouble. So it was a bit militant here, but not. I have noted a lot of times people have said, "Oh, in Australia you had the army putting people in camps." Never, ever, ever, ever did that happen. So if that was on your mainstream media in America, that was just bullshit. Never did anybody get locked up in camps here in Australia by the army. The only camps there were the people that had come from Queensland, gone on a holiday when it wasn't a lockdown. Then Queensland, don't get me started on that woman. The woman who was running Queensland at the time shut the borders. Boom, that's it. You've got 24 hours and the borders are being shut. You won't be able to get back in until further notice. So people were away on holidays with their caravans and crap all the way down in Victoria. It takes more than 24 hours to drive here.
Right.
So people tried desperately to get home in time. Mind you, they're visiting people. Some people missed the announcement. Some people didn't know. So they all came back, got to the border and were told, nope, sorry, you can't enter. So they made a camp. They all camped, like camping. They all camped in a football field just the other side of home. They could literally, and the stupid thing is, they could literally go up to the barriers and talk to their family on the other side of the barrier. It was just one of them concrete.
Ridiculous.
Oh yeah, and people, you know,
I didn't know they had like bio force field technology built in there. That's great.
I'm surprised they didn't hang up plexiglass like they did all here.
Yeah, and I just thought so. I'm hopeful too. I think who was it? Somebody. I think it was England. Or somebody said, "Oh, bird flu!" California, wasn't it, Enzo?
That one tried to take off like a couple of weeks ago, and everybody was like, "Here's your bird right here." It's everybody was dealing with it, and that's actually kind of sad because if there's a legitimately bad virus going around that, like, it's one of those zombie virus kind of things, people today are going to be like, "No, I don't believe you."
Right.
And are going to go out and be the rebellious I'm not putting the diaper on kind of a thing.
Yeah,
exactly. Hi, Hamby.
And they're going to die. I mean, even I was chatting with I have a at that time 75-year-old neighbor, and we were chatting outside. We were maintaining our distance. That's actually something I kind of miss. I don't like the close talking.
Hang on. I'm sorry. I'm reading this. Stormy. No, there wasn't. and it never happened. Where did you hear that? I was just talking about that. I live in Queensland. There was not a concentration camp built. And people weren't put in it. They did build, having said that, the Queensland Premier did put the funding forward to build a facility on the other side of Brisbane, which was supposed to be able to house people that were coming into the country, had the COVID and needed to be kept isolated rather than put them in hotels. So that was built. It was also, there's a bit of a tricky-dicky political thing going on there. It was built on land of a friend of hers. He apparently, I don't know if he sold the land or donated the land to have this built. That I'm not 100% on. But the deal was that when COVID was all over, should he build, he wanted to build, it's again, my understanding, he wanted to build some kind of attraction, that people would come to. And at some point, he said, given it was on his land, he would like to utilise that building when it wasn't being used for COVID any longer to house people coming to stay at his. I don't think anything's ever happened to his, dream world or whatever he was going to build. But yeah, so I don't know. Oh, I've never heard of them, but that would have been I didn't hear about that either. And, all right, I'll look into that one because I don't know about that one. But definitely no concentration camp was built in Queensland. That was built. It was never used. And I think now it's being utilised for training new policemen. I think that was the last I heard, but it was never used. So, yeah, that was interesting to me that I saw people talking about that. And I'm like, what drugs are you on? That never happened. Again, must have been reported on mainstream media somewhere and someone's run with it. But that's why you've got to look into things. It's amazing, isn't it, that people hear these things and think, oh, it happened because I saw it. And I think someone told me, I can't remember, one of my American friends told me that they'd seen footage of the soldiers taking people. And I'm like, the only thing I can think of that they might have seen was soldiers knocking on people's doors because our soldiers were put in a position where they had to go, what were they checking? Oh, I think they were checking if people were being immunised, or there was like door knocks happening and we didn't have enough police to do it. So they got the army in. But, yeah, it was a bad time here actually in all of Australia. I don't know what it was like in America, but here we were utilising our police force at the borders, keeping people out of different, because it wasn't Australia as a whole, it was each state had a border that you weren't allowed to cross because of COVID.
Right.
And so we had
to be fair, that is how you would handle a contagion, is you would lock down all in the United States. Every state would have its own borders locked down by the state police, where nobody in, nobody out.
Right.
And that would go on for like 3 to 4 weeks. By that time, it's run its course for whatever's inside of that, and then everything should be open after that. That's it would have lasted a month and a half to 2 months.
Right.
Total, period. And then as long as your borders are secure, which the United States is not secure, is where you would, if your borders coming into the entire country are secure, and a very strict, in and out type thing, it'd be done. The whole thing is done in a couple of months, not a year and a half or more, like it kind of lasted here. It's don't go outside. It's all awful. But if you put this piece of paper in front of your face, you can go to Walmart or Costco or Sam's Club, and it's perfectly fine. It's like, it's not how a disease works.
I'm beginning to worry about Stormy. Yes, Pocket Watch, thank you. That's what the people who were told to isolate at home, the police were originally had to go and check that they were still isolating, but then because our police force was under the pump, like crime was crazy because we had no police to attend to the crime. They were all stuck at the friggin' border.
Wow.
It was pretty shit. And but Pocket Watch, they were checking. Thank you, Pocket Watch. They were checking that people were still isolating. That's what the army boys were doing. So anything that anyone saw in regard to footage with our army boys was either old footage of something different that they were utilising to fake a story, or people were getting confused with what they were seeing.
Doesn't even make sense. They're knocking on somebody's door and they're wearing a mask, like a full chemical warfare thing. They're like, are you still isolated there? Yes, just go away. We're trying to wait until we feel better. Okay, we're gonna go out the front. We're going to check back up on you later, though, in case make sure you're still there.
Yeah.
What?
Stormy says direct energy weapons were used against peaceful protesters during the COVID protests. Again, I don't know. Did that happen in America, Enzo? Because
no, I don't recall directed energy weapons being used in the U.S.
No,
that's the issue. Is in the U.S. we still have our own QQs individually.
But I don't. I haven't heard of that being used here either. The only thing I know is one of my friends, very close friend, is a detective down in Victoria, and I I happen to know that the police force was under the pump down in Victoria because they were being told that they had to arrest people. They arrested one poor woman. It was very much like England at the moment because you weren't allowed to congregate, so you couldn't arrange a protest. If you were caught saying, hey, we should all meet up and do such and such, the police would knock on your door and arrest you. And I saw footage of that, and I'm like, what the fuck? A poor pregnant woman got arrested because she said, maybe we should all meet at the park and talk about it. She got arrested.
You're outside, if you're socially distancing, then it should be okay, right?
I don't know. It should be all right. But that was Victoria. Victoria was probably out of all of the states. Queensland was shitty too, but Victoria was almost like a militant state. You weren't even allowed to go outside of your particular suburb. That's how bad it got. If you live here and we see you 5 kilometres away in another suburb at a shopping centre, you better have a good reason or you're going to be in trouble. Big fines. But I certainly don't think I don't know.
Oh, my husband and I drove all over the place. It was great because the roads were empty.
Oh, well, yeah, Stormy, mainstream media does lie to people for sure. But
they're still lying today.
Yeah.
Yes, they
and quarantine stations, I never heard that either happening in Victoria. I'm going to have to look into all of that because I've got family, obviously. I come from Victoria, so I don't know. I'd like you to send me a link or something, Stormy, to tell me where you're getting all of that information from. Because
I recall here in the U.S. seeing some news articles from Australia where they had set up a quarantine station, which in the U.S. we would call a quarantine happy camp, vacation camp. Everyone load yourselves on the track, on the trains. It's basically it was people that were traveling internationally and were ripped out of their hotels and put in these quarantine camps where it was like individualized, like we would call them like FEMA trailers, which is a really basic trailer that held like a couple of people. And they would like bring them food every day and stuff like that. And they're like, when can we leave? And they're like, no, you stay. Of course, the people on the outside are all, you have to stay until you leave the government. What?
It's really interesting. I never saw any of that. So either I was not watching mainstream media, which I don't. So that's probably my problem. I wasn't watching Channel 9, Channel 10, that all mainstream. But I know that international people they had to stay in their hotel. But my knowledge, there was no camps. None.
From what I recall of it, there would have to be like some kind of overflow where they didn't have enough room in whatever designated quarantine hotel, and those were the camps.
Okay. Well, in that case, yeah, I do recall some hotels being used to quarantine people, but so maybe that's it, but not camps per se. It was just like different hotels were utilized in ways where but they had to pay their own bill. Like the government didn't pay for it. It was like, if you want to stay. So people were getting really cranky because they didn't have money. Even if you flew home. So if you flew home from America into Australia, you weren't allowed to go home. You had to go to a hotel until you were cleared. I'm like, so it was pretty stupid all around. It was handled ridiculously. And as it turns out, it was all bullshit anyway.
Yeah. We are kind of arguing, the nonsense how it all turned out. So.
Yeah. And Dee, I remember that because in Melbourne, in one of it was really bad. There was people were locked down in their homes, but we have, like England does, we have big commission house or public housing buildings that are. Oh, so you like the what's the word in America you use? Like in the Bronx and stuff. There's a word for it where you
Borough?
have poor. It'll come to me.
Ghetto?
But no, not ghetto, not that bad. Oh God, there's a word for it. You know, high-rise buildings where poor people live, government housing. And we had one down in Victoria. There was 2 of them, and someone got COVID.
Projects.
Yeah, thank you. Projects.
There you go.
Project is a word.
thank you.
Okay.
The projects.
But people were locked down.
Play the Good Times theme. Would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people were locked in the buildings, and people had to come in, give them food. It was really terrible. People couldn't eat. That was terrible, and that was stupid. And I'm trying to think how long that took till they settled it all down and things were. But there was uproar about that. So there were people locked down in these big buildings. Some of them didn't even have the COVID, but because one person or a couple of person did, it was like, right, that's it. No one's allowed to leave or go into that building. It was just, there was a lot of stupidity around it. But Dee, exactly. Let's have a look. I'm just seeing curfew virus as office hours. Yeah, I know. Oh dear. What's Pocket Watch asking me? What do you mean it was BS anyway? Which bit of the whole COVID years are you referring to? Oh, I'm referring to COVID itself, all the information that's come out since that about them. It was what was the initial reasoning? It was a bat or something. It was
it was bat soup, according to CNN. It was people eating bat soup from live markets in China.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as it turns out, it was actually Mr. Fauci who had been paying the Chinese and how do we say the name of that friggin' building? Woohoo! Anyway, what? the people. There's a lab there. If I can understand correctly, Fauci wanted to do some of this sort of stuff in America, and he wasn't given the go-ahead. So
that's illegal to do in America. So they would outsource it to another country where they didn't care, which is happened to be China. And
happened to be China, and millions, possibly billions, but millions was given to the lab to research these things, one of them being the COVID, and it got out, didn't it? So that was the big cover-up in regard to that, because he would never admit to it. He still hasn't. He still hasn't. Pocket Watch, because he's been given a pardon, a preemptive one. So, and there's been a big report on it, Pocket Watch. Look it up. There is who released that report, Enzo? Off the top of your head, do you remember? It's a report done by somebody in government on the whole Fauci incident and the COVID incident. It's all come out. It's all there to read and see his involvement. It's absolutely 100% true. And that is why Mr. Biden's given him a preemptive pardon from anything he's done.
Let's be honest. Biden didn't know anything of what he's signing.
No,
right.
Yeah.
But
sign this one, Joe. Then you'll have ice cream.
Yeah. So that's what happened. And if there's anybody else in the chat, medically speaking, who would also know, I do know people in the medical field. I do know that when people passed on during that time, if you were in hospital when you passed on, and you, let's just say you were in hospital and you had heart issues. You were in hospital because there was something wrong with your heart and they were going to look at fixing it, or you were just there because, could be a bit touch and go. You had cancer, you'd had a stroke, whatever. If while you were in hospital you were also diagnosed with COVID and you died, you were put down as COVID-related death,
Same here.
regardless.
If
Right?
you died
Same in
in an
America.
auto accident and you
Had
had
COVID.
COVID, you died from
COVID.
COVID,
Yeah,
not
same
the
here.
car vehicle accident.
And that's that is not BS. That is factual. I know doctors, personally know doctors. I know nurses. I know that forms were changed for that reason. You had to tick boxes. So unfortunately, hopefully the truth will come out, but it'll be a bit hard. They'd have to go back through all the paperwork.
Yeah.
But the truth is that, yes, apparently a lot of people did die from when they caught COVID. And most of them were elderly or pre-existing different things that when they caught it, much like if you caught influenza, like the flu. I'm not talking about, I'm achy, I've got.
Right.
I'm talking about influenza A. Anybody who's got the pre-existing comorbidities and catches a flu, any flu, like a bad one, particularly A, you're probably not going to make it. And COVID was the same, different, but the same. It's a flu, right?
Just out of curiosity, Karyn or Laura, did you actually come down with COVID? You know, checked with the test and all that stuff. Did you actually come down with it?
Yes, I had COVID.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did.
Did it feel like a normal?
I had COVID. I only had it
flu to you.
Well, yeah, the first 3 days you felt like you got hit by a bus, and then after that it was a cold.
Yeah. Okay. And I just, but basically the same. It was a flu. And the only difference for me was I lost my taste. That was it.
I was
but it
fine.
was a flu.
That would be when you hired me to be on the show.
Yeah.
When you had no taste.
Pocket watch. So all these things were said in the very beginning, but everybody, that is when people, in the very beginning, people were talking about it and saying, oh, but it's this, this, and this because of this, this, and this. And that is when, if you go back and think about it and look at the timeline, that's when everybody got shut down. You weren't even allowed to say the word COVID. You weren't allowed to say anything. You weren't allowed to talk about
this channel would have already been gone just from
I'd be off there. If they would have heard, and I'd be off there. So you weren't allowed to speak about it. So far as the immunisations, the jab is concerned, if anybody raised anything about, but hang on, that's whatever. And so, of course, now it has come out that the injections themselves are a waste of time and causing other interesting things to happen.
Causing a lot of medical problems.
Right. The COVID injections is a whole other topic. That is.
Yeah, that's a whole, and I won't get into that. But
that's a whole other thing.
And that's it. We'll let Mr. Kennedy sort that business out. But obviously, but the actual inventor of one of them, the actual inventor who then got taken off of it, he talked about that. So there's a few good Joe Rogan episodes you can watch on that, and a few other people have done stuff on it, not just Joe Rogan. But he spoke to the actual person who invented
Sorry to hear that, Dee. Did you notice it was Newman there in the chat says Dodger for 4 years, so sick, but they have COPD. So did you think it was like a normal flu cold thing, or is it just compounded what you already had and it was just ugly? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, do tell, Dee. And yes, Stormy, me too. I wouldn't, at the time it all came out, I was telling my friends, it's a load of shit. It's just a flu. Well, that's what it was here. I had to as well. If I wanted to keep my job, I needed the jab. Otherwise, I would be let go, and I needed to feed my family. So I got the jab. But now, and I'll try not to go off. I've already gone over time, but that's fine because this is my turn. This is my ability to vent a bit. I got the jab because I had to. Or like Stormy, I wouldn't have a job. And like Pocket Watch, there's a thing. This is like a rabbit hole, but look it up later if you're interested.
No, I feel bad for you. That's awful.
If you're interested, just type in somewhere turbo cancer. Okay.
Jesus.
No, seriously. It's not a conspiracy thing. I am a nurse, but I'm not nursing at the moment. But I do have friends that are still practicing doctors. And when I got sick with the thyroid and all that, I was talking to them, asking them questions because they're my friends, so I don't have to pay them. At the moment,
those are some good friends.
Yeah, at the moment, there's a few odd things happening since the Pfizer and the other one that's now being sued in England, the AstraZeneca. What was it called? AstraZeneca. There was two of them. So there was Pfizer and the other one. That now is not allowed to be given, I think, in the UK. I don't know if they've stopped it here. But so we're left with the Pfizer one, I believe. But I, for example, got the thyroid cancer. No history of it in my family and no symptoms or anything. But previous to my injections, I would get thyroid function tests and so on and so forth, and everything was okay. It's not to say that the Pfizer jab caused it. I don't know, but it's very interesting to me. And it was fast. They said to me it was getting, we better get in and operate it and it was spreading. So they got it. I'm fine. But my doctor's friends are saying, it's actually a thing. There's certain cancers happening in people that before were sort of slow going, and now, for whatever reason, a lot more people are getting them, right? A lot more people, young people in their early 20s, getting cancers, which, if you go back and look at the interview done with the fellow who invented that, what's it called? What Pfizer's based on, M something. He invented the way that it comes into your body and does what it does. If you go back and watch all of those and watch his interview and do the math, even if you're not scientifically minded, we're never going to get, nothing's ever going to happen about it. No one's ever going to be able to sue Pfizer because they were given, immunity or whatever by the governments. But it is a bit scary, and it's a bit scary because of how it was done and how we were easily able to be locked down in our homes like little sheep. Do as you're told or you'll get a fine. Do as you're told or you'll lose your job. Do as you're told. Do as you're told. Do as you're told or you're in big trouble. And we did. How easy was that? All of us locked in our home, like worldwide. It was an experiment, if you ask me. But anyway, I think I can safely say going forward, human beings have learned, and if they ever try to do that again, I think there will be absolute chaos because people will say, no. Right. I'm not. I'll lose my job. If I had it to do again, I don't know about you, Pocket Watch or Stormy, but if I had it to do again, I would lose my job. I think, no, stuck ya. I'm going to lose my job then because maybe I wouldn't have got the thyroid cancer.
Right. That happened to my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law was forced to get the shot, and he was a truck driver on the road, and he stroked out while driving.
Yes, I was just going to say that's the other thing it was causing.
He was loaded with blood clots. It killed him. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Save his job, he saved his job, but now he's in the cemetery. So,
awful.
People are still ignorant.
I didn't get it. I didn't have a shot done. I refused.
I never had to. Yeah.
So, I never had to either, but I had people out, trying to guilt me into it. And I have a history of allergy issues with medication. I says, no, I'm not going to the cemetery for anybody. So you guys will have to deal with
it. I'm in that same boat. I have a lot of allergies myself, but I know, like, if this had occurred like when I was, several years younger and I was in the military, I'd be like, yeah, fine, just give me whatever, because I was used to getting inoculations for
Right.
everything all the time. Stuff is like, what is this? It doesn't matter. You need to do whatever you're going to
Yeah.
have to do. Fine,
Right.
whatever. And whatever. And I probably would have just shrugged it right off. But I have been in a situation where, cause I was always required to get like the yearly flu shot and stuff like that. And
Right.
because of bizarre circumstances, because I was always traveling and doing this and that and things like that, is I never got one year. And it's like, I'm fine. I don't need that shit anymore. And it's like it was fairly eye-opening to me that it's like, I keep being told I need this, but I really don't, kind of a thing. And ever since then, it's like, I don't give it. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Okay. I'll take the local anesthetic while you're pulling teeth out of my head at the dentist. And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
About it.
Look, I know, gee, we got quite deep in this live stream, didn't we?
It was a conspiracy live stream. So that's how it's
but I feel like I'm looking at the chat. We've got Pocket Watch who had to get the jab because his wife was sick. And that was the other thing. You weren't allowed to enter a hospital if you hadn't, if you hadn't had
awful.
it. You could not do a thing if you hadn't had the jab. And looking back on it and looking and remembering things, and actually, Stormy, you're reminding me of a few things I'd forgotten. But yeah, I just Stormy's saying they said concentration camps, and that's why I'm like, what? No, they didn't. But yeah, quarantine stations, as in like what Enzo was saying, hotels and stuff where people were just, you weren't allowed to leave. But yeah, I and who was it? I think it was Pocket Watch said that they need to investigate Fauci. They have investigated it. Someone has done it. It's got to go into it further. They've got to, but because he's now being given a blanket pardon, it means that anything they look into and want to charge him with, because he's been pardoned, he can't. But Enzo and I were actually having this conversation the other day, Laura, not on here, just talking to each other. Because on a technicality, I'm wondering, it's like if you write your will and it turns out at the time that you wrote your will and your last testament, you actually had Alzheimer's and family find out, then legally speaking, that last will and testament when you had Alzheimer's or dementia will be scrubbed, and they'll have to look at either the one before it or something. It'll go into, like, there'll be a legal thing, because they'd be thinking, well, did they sign? Did they know what they were signing in their will? Suspicious. So Mr. Biden, as we know, because it's also just come out that he actually didn't realise he'd signed certain other executive orders when questioned. He's actually had a meeting with someone who asked him a question and he went, no, I didn't, and he did. So it's absolutely obvious that Mr. Biden, due to his mental capacity, has signed things he has no idea, doesn't know what he's signing. But let's just, so because it's him that signed the executive orders to free murderers and blanket pardon people, because it's him and because everyone believes it's him that's given the pardon, there might be a legal way to say, hey, it is absolutely proven that he has had the mental capacity that has that's actually stopped him from having to be prosecuted, because they said he isn't mentally stable enough to be prosecuted because he's old and feeble. So that's why they never prosecuted him for what he had done, right? Because he got, oh no, you can't take him to trial because he's got, he's feeble. He doesn't know what he's doing. So I'm wondering if legally all of these pardons he's given can be in some way in the courts argued because he has signed them when he is clearly non-compass. He has got dementia, and did he indeed know what he was signing when it was put in front of him? They might be able to then prosecute these people involved in destroying countries worldwide, not just America, not just Australia, England. There were so many people you know, so many people harmed by what was done and still harmed, still to this day coping with it. So I hope going forward, people just open their eyes and come together in a good way to protect everybody else, like look after each other, you know, support each other. And
what you just said is probably key to that is, a U.S. presidential pardon. That's only for the United States. Other countries can certainly come in and do whatever they like as far as illegal procedures. So,
yeah. Maybe Mr. Trump should talk to Mr. Putin. Imagine being caught, being taken to Russia and charged with it. Woohoo! What a terrible way. Wouldn't that be horrible? I never thought of that too. That's another good thing because, yeah, you're right. It's only for the United States. And because this that particular thing is a international issue,
Right.
could be. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never like to see people get into trouble. I never like to see bad things happen to people, even people like Mr. Biden. He's got his political history and stuff, but he's a human being, and he's an old man. He's definitely got dementia, and I feel sorry for him because he too has been used. He shouldn't have been probably president 4 years ago. It should have maybe gone to someone else. I don't know who. I don't
a
care.
lot of people said it at the time, of course, but the real question is who has actually been leading this country for the last 4 years? It was not Joe Biden.
Yeah, it wasn't him.
Yeah. And
someone that was ever elected to a position.
Again, I'm just going to take my flowers off. Again, Enzo and I were talking about this because I watched the Speaker of the House do an interview where he said a year ago, I want to say he said a year ago, the interview is out there if you want to find it and watch it in full. Don't just watch snippets. But he was talking about the fact that there was a lot going on security-wise with the country, and he needed to speak to the president. He called and he wanted to make an appointment to see the president, and he was told the president's too busy. We'll let you know. Anyway, I want to say he said, again, watch the interview, I think he said it took 8 weeks till he actually got told, yes, all right, come on into the Oval Office or his office and meet with the president. He said he was surprised because when he walked in, he expected it to probably just be him and the president. That's what he wanted. But there was a room full of people, different advisors, etc. Harris, what's her face? Kathleen Harris, whatever they call her. She was in there. There was a whole heap of people.
Wow.
And he's like, oh, what are they all doing in here? Anyway, the president finally, after a bit of talking back and forward, like the guy's saying, I really need to speak to you in private, Mr. President. So the president apparently tapped him on the hand and looked at everybody and said, mind leaving, please. We want a moment. And the Speaker of the House said everyone hesitated. It was like, and then he repeated himself, please leave. I want a moment alone with the Speaker of the House. So everybody left, and that's when the Speaker of the House took the opportunity to say, sir, I need to ask you why you stopped the gas thing, production of the gas. And Biden said, no, I didn't. And he goes, sir, it's an executive order. I can get your secretary to print it out. You absolutely stopped it. No. Oh, the gas, he says. Oh, no. I didn't stop that. He said, I just signed, it was to do some, some work, some investigative, experimental type, sort of like a look into the effects of thing. That's what I signed. So at that point in time, the Speaker of the House realized that Biden had no idea what he had been signing. He was signing what he was being told he was signing. So that was a year ago. So and it's clear that someone else has been running America, and it looks like it was a whole heap of different people, not just one person. So America has dodged the bullet. That's all I'll say. Absolutely. You put it in. Thank you, Enzo. Yeah, if you want to watch it, guys,
that link. So
yeah, just cut and paste that and watch it. It's like mind-boggling. So I do feel sorry for Mr. Biden. He's an old man. He shouldn't have had to have done that for the last few years. He's probably not got much time left. Then again, maybe, who knows? But he should have been just relaxing on the beach for the last 4 years, Poor man. So I do feel sorry for people. I don't like seeing people, but if you do something really, really bad like that Mr. Fauci did and other people, then you've got to pay the price. You can't do that because it affects other people. It kills people, as we've just discussed. People die. Or like Dee said, and Dee, I can say with 100%, I don't know about Laura. Laura, have you got kids? You've got kids, haven't you?
Yes, I have one.
How old?
He's 34.
Oh, all right. Yeah. But my youngest is 19, sunny sock. And I can say that when everything got locked down and it had to be everyone locked in and do school from your computer, that sort of thing, destroyed my kids. Absolutely destroyed them socially, because when it came back to the time where they could go back to school, they'd been home for so long that anxiety built. They didn't want to go back to school. They'd gotten used to being locked in their room at home.
Right.
And to be fair, your kids were a little older. For kids that were much younger, in the third, fourth grade kind of frame.
Yeah.
They are in a really bad shape.
Yep.
Yeah. All because, and I must admit, having children, it was a little bit a bit scary, because you thought, shit, are they going to get the COVID? But kids didn't seem to be getting it. Or if they were, it was incidental. So, it was just, I don't understand any of it. I don't understand. And yes, Stormy, they all should be. But of course, they've all had pardons done. I don't know. I know that talking about Mr. Trump is controversial, because a lot of people don't like him. Oh, I hate him. You can hate him, whatever. If you don't hate him, I like him. If you hate him, that's fine too. But put that aside and look at what he's trying to do and what the people around.
Right. As long as he does his job.
And I think it's a good thing. And he won't be, he's only got 4 years. He can't be president again after that. So then it's going to go to someone else. Who? I don't know. But at the moment, who cares? Let's just get America beautiful, and let's hope that it spreads to Australia and we get some bit of common sense here as well. People here in Australia are getting jack of our freaking politicians too. And England, I think the UK before anybody else needs help. Absolutely. Yes. And my flags are here. I can't pull them over. Look, I've got my American one. You can just see the end of it. Yeah, my stars and stripes. And I've got my Australian one. We've got pretty stars on ours. See?
Oh.
I've got we've got pretty stars. I don't know. I love my country. I love America. And now that I've been to England, England itself, the countryside, the history is just beautiful. And the people I met were beautiful. See, people are beautiful. Us normal, regular humans are beautiful. We make our mistakes. We can be nasty sometimes. We can say stupid things. I'm the biggest culprit of, Fauci for sure. Fauci for sure, Stormy. We can say stupid things. Everyone can say stupid things. Everybody, I do all the time. Enzo knows.
I say stupid stuff every time I open my mouth.
And I'm sure, and Laura says silly things too. We all do.
The time.
But I think at the heart of it, nobody wishes. There's only bad people wish other people horrible things to happen. And when I say that, I've got a problem with that. I've wished horrible things to happen to pedophiles and things like that, right? That's different. What I'm saying is, in general, I think when we wake up in the morning, we want to have a nice day. We want to have no stress. We want to smile at people we meet in the street. And if someone falls down, we want to help them up. there's not very many people, unless they're crazy, that the first thought they wake up in the morning is, who can I hurt today? They're the crazy people. Chaos can I cause today? I think on the whole, the world is full of good people. And I think good people worldwide at the moment are starting to think, maybe I should speak up. Maybe I should start talking. I said this to Enzo the other day. I can't explain it, but it's kind of like, I said to everybody actually the other week, it's kind of like something is happening. Something's happening. All this horrible stuff is going to be sorted out, and something's happening, whether it's because, and it's not just to do with Mr. Trump, it's to do with worldwide. There's all of a sudden people are starting to just sort of go, hey, this isn't right. Everybody has the right to be happy and have a roof over their head and be good. And I think good people are starting to go, you know what? I'm going to talk up. I'm going to speak up. I'm not going to just sit here and listen to all this rubbish anymore. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. And you're allowed to vent, Stormy. I did. Everyone's allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, absolutely there has to be accountability. They're everywhere. You know, even our government did the wrong things. Everyone's governments, but again, it was because we were told by the WHO, the World Health Authority, do this or else. You know, and I think personally, I think what Mr. Trump did the other day, telling them to F off, is a good thing. I wish they'd do it here. I just think, stuff you. We've got enough doctors and smart people that if something should break out, we can work out how to handle it. You know, unless it's going to be turning us into zombies, Enzo, like you said before, I don't think we need to worry. We'll be right. So Enzo and Laura, before we've got 5 minutes, I've run half an hour over, but that's okay. Project Blue Beam. Oh, you're a funny kid. Yeah, anything you want to add to today's chat and then end it? I think we've almost ended it on a light note. We've all vented.
Sure. I feel a lot of, you know, the JFK files being released and things like that, which will still be a few weeks from now. We have a little time to get our favorite little opinions in on what we think it is. But I feel at the root of it, it's going to be a little bit more of the same for all the things that we've discussed tonight, where there are certain elements of our government that think they know better than we do and are trying to express their opinions on top of us without asking us. You know, the people that actually elected them to that position.
Right.
And so that we will find out that things are being decided that have nothing to do with the people that should have a say in it, which is us. So I feel that's probably what we'll end up seeing with a lot of the JFK stuff and RFK and all the other stuff. So it's one of those things where you could maybe give it a slight pass for, you know, the time where they thought maybe everybody doesn't know all of the stuff about, you know, evil Russians and what their plans are, whatever the stuff is. But I feel that in the long run, it's going to be, you were not authorized to do the things that you did, is how I feel about it. Where there were government agencies involved that were basically expressing their own wishes over the public's wishes, which the public was not even inquired about what their opinion was. It didn't matter. It's like, you will think the way we say you think, or you'll end up in an awful fate. Accidental overdose. That's so sad for you.
You know, me a little bit, Enzo. Oh, my internet glitched again. The thing that makes me No, the thing that makes me giggle a little bit is that the whole thing, worldwide, not just America, the whole thing is, dictatorship, where we don't want, for example, Mr. Trump in because he's going to become a dictator on day one. For the past, 4 years, that's what you've been living under. You were dictated to. You were told to stay in your house. You were told you can't talk about this. You were told you can't. That's dictatorship. You were already living
and
under
it wasn't
one.
even the person you voted for. The person that you voted for had nothing to do with any of the decisions of the last 4 years.
Yeah, so it kind of makes me giggle, and I'm not stupid. I watch everything. I listen to everything. I don't just watch Fox, although I do like Gutfeld. He can say a bit too much sometimes. He gets passionate, but I don't agree with everything he says, but I don't mind watching him. I don't just watch Gutfeld. I watch everything. I watch independent people. I do even watch the CNN and their reports. But you know what happens when I start watching them? I go, oh, fuck, and I just turn it off. I'm like, you're full of shit. But I educate myself. So if I hear somebody say something about a certain, they said such and such, I will find the video of them saying such and such. I want to see it, because I don't believe what I'm seeing. So I think the world's just going to get better now. Hopefully people are already not scared anymore to say what they feel, which is great. However, here in Australia and in England, we've still got to be careful, because here in Australia, we've got a Prime Minister who does want to shut down free speech. He tried to do it, I want to say about a month ago. He tried to pass something through our Parliament sneakily to stop people being able to do stuff. And they've stopped people being able to be on YouTube if you're 16 and under, and like the whole heap of different stuff. Social media, beg your pardon, not just YouTube. No social media if you're under at all. They've done a lot of things. So I'll be happy when this particular leader in our country is gone and someone else replaces him. Who, I don't know, and will it be any better? Who knows? But yeah, I'm over him. Yeah, Elbow, that's what we call him here. Albanese is his name. And he didn't go to the inauguration. I don't know who did. I haven't looked into that yet. Do you know, Dee? Albanese, our Prime Minister, didn't come to the inauguration. What the wanker? Like, our allies, Americans, I think I've told you all before I love America, haven't I? Maybe I was an American in a previous life. Yeah, maybe I was American in a previous life. I reckon I might have. Yeah, I reckon I might have been the lady that made the flag.
Betsy Ross?
Good old Betsy Ross.
I think I was Betsy Ross. And I made the flag, and then I was born in Australia years later. Who knows? I don't know. I like to have a bit of a giggle. But I'm just, to end it all on a positive note, thank you, Laura, for being here. And
thank you for inviting me.
Little Taylor is here, and Enzo, as always. And for everybody watching, that's kind of the direction my channel's heading in anyway. We're just going to talk about anything we want to and not be too scared. Careful, of course, because we don't want to get sued. Well, I don't. But I think what we've discussed today is just all opinion, and it's fine, and we're allowed to do that. But I'm happy to talk about ghosties, and I'm happy to talk about aliens and all sorts. There's so much out there, but I just, and everybody in chat, feel free, like, vent. And we can have a talk. Like Stormy said, they've been waiting for a discussion like this, because people need to get things off their chest, I reckon. And I reckon the world's just going to get better. I'm going to be positive about it, and I'm going to think this is going to be good. So long as nobody hurts a certain person over there in the White House. So, I don't think the bad people are going to relent, and I don't think the bad people are going to shut up. They're going to keep trying. But be interesting to see if their licenses are revoked over there for their media stations. Is it the ABC, Australia Broadcasting Company, that's owned by the government, to revoke the license? But
that's it. Froze her up again.
This is your chance, my dear. Say your piece. I know I certainly cut you off earlier. So
No, I just
that.
totally agree with what she was getting at, is that I think people are waking up now, and they're not afraid to speak their minds. It's everybody's being they're sick and tired of being told what to do.
Yeah. I think I was hacked then because I lost my internet. I think I'm back now.
Oh, gremlins.
They're listening. Oh, look, I don't know if you can see on my head. Can you see that on my head? There's like a little red lump. I got bitten by a wasp.
Oh boy, you got the implant.
Yes, the implant. I was outside in my garden, and there was some horror. I didn't see him. I was putting my fairy lights up, and I did something, and something went bonk and hit me in the head, and straight away it stung, and I'm like, ow.
Ouch.
And then I looked, and it was a little wasp nest. I thought, you bastard, and it started to sting. So I went and got a kill. And yeah,
D is right. The spies are watching.
Yeah, they're getting her.
Everything we've talked about is you end up going missing suddenly, where we will never hear from you again. Which I don't believe that's something that would actually happen, though, because that would just.
Oh, Nancy. No! They got Enzo. We better get out of here.
Dear. Yes, indeed, Stormy. Yes, indeed. Enzo, come back.
Come back, his way to escape. He had the mothership beam him up.
He's gone. Look at that.
There he is. They beamed him back down.
You okay? No problem.
Where's to sit?
Oh dear. Look, everybody in chat. Yeah, everybody that's stuck with me. I think I lost a few people because there are still a lot of people that don't like a certain person out there. So you know what? Tough titties. There he is. Oh. I've come to save the world.
I collect the best garbage. This is the ultimate garbage.
But anyway, I think I'm hoping that everything goes nicely and we can go back to a time, and there was a time where we could all say what we thought, and you could agree or disagree with it, but you could at least say what you thought. You could have an opinion without being.
How bizarre is that? You have to like tiptoe around that. That's stupid.
Like, so I don't know. So, but yeah. So just come on back, and anyone who leaves and doesn't come on back, I guess they're, that's up to them. I don't care. I'm happy to have a discussion with the people I invite in, and I'm happy to talk to Stormy and D and Pocket Watch, and and if everybody else wants to disappear, they can disappear. I think Heather went to bed for a sleep. Yeah, she did. She crawled into bed. Look at that. Well, you have a lovely sleep at 2:38 in the afternoon. Actually, it'll be later in Adelaide because of daylight savings. Oh, and is he going to get rid of daylight savings? I think he wants to. I wish they'd get rid of it here. I hate it.
Yeah, that's dumb. It's always
we don't actually have daylight savings where I live in Queensland. We don't have it, but because all of the rest of Australia does, it still fucks everything
makes it
up.
Extra confusing to try and figure out what the hell time it is when you're talking about daily life.
Yeah, thank you, Dee. Thank you very much. Hey, get Don in. Yeah, well, he's in. The reason I did that, Stormy, was because I had him as an elf on a shelf. I don't think you were here. I took his hat off. I was worried he wouldn't have hair, but he does have hair. And I took his hat off, and then I was in the shops and I saw a high-vis jacket for Elf on a Shelf. So I purchased it for him, and that's why I say it's Trump in the garbage truck, because he did wear the high-vis belt, and someone told him he looked thin. Yeah, someone told him he looked thin wearing it, so he thought maybe you should wear it all the time. If I ever find a little red tie and a jacket, I'll get one. But that's Trumpy. Oh. There he is. What a terrible face.
Dressed up for down.
But anyway, I giggled. A whole heap of people giggled when they saw it in the shop. Like, there was a lot of people buying them. So I think there's a lot of closet Trump supporters out there. But
It's so hilarious to me. I find that so funny.
I know, but there you go. All right. Well, I suppose I should go. I don't know. Oh, I've got my pussycat back in my possession, the white cat, Enzo, if you remember. She's currently sitting on the end of my bed over there, but she's back with me. She's a fussy eater, so I've absconded with her and I'm feeding her lots of chicken and stuff like that. And Puppy has been very quiet sitting next to her. So in the future, if you ever hear her, you know who it is. All right. It was lovely chatting with everybody, and I'll be back next week with Enzo and putting together a few things. So hopefully I'll have a couple of different bits and bobs up. I'm still looking at all my footage from when I went to England, and I must put some stuff together so you can see what I saw when I went over there. But have a lovely weekend, everybody. And that's it. That's me, Enzo and Laura out. And Enzo and Laura, if you want to hold on until the outro finishes, I'll say a quick goodbye to you personally. Okay. All right, everybody. Lots of love.
Bye, everybody.